Hey guys, Youngblood with you for the 41st episode of the Inbox. And we're starting off with a question from Justin Garrett asking, if I could choose one ship to have LTI between a Freelancer or a Hornet, which one would you choose? I think that's an interesting question. My immediate gut reaction says go with the Hornet, primarily because with it being a combat ship, you're more likely to be in situations where you're going to lose your ship. Sure, I mean, the Freelancer's going to have people coming after you and trying to steal your cargo and everything, but the Freelancer's a pretty fast ship. It's got decent shielding on it. It's got decent weaponry on it. It's got the turret on it to help kind of pester people while you try and make your escape. But ultimately, the Freelancer can get into situations to where you're really operating in safe space, where there's a limited, chance of actually being engaged. The Hornet by design is designed to be in combat, and because of that, you're more likely to take damage, you're more likely to lose your ship. Sure, it's got a little cargo if you're talking about the non-Super Hornet or non-tracker varieties, or basically just the F7C option. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be doing mercenary work, you're going to be doing escort work, you're going to be doing combat work, bounty hunting, those types of things. And those are all really dangerous careers, which is why it really is justified to have LTI on that, probably more than the Freelancer. But at the end of the day, I would say whichever one you're going to be taking into dangerous space. So if you're not planning on using the Hornet much, then the Freelancer should take it. McFly asks, hey, was wondering if you knew if there was a way in the real game to give other accounts access to your ships, such as an organization wanting to use a Carrack while you're gone. Yeah, that is something that we're going to have available. There's also been talks on a slightly more complicated scale of being able to actually rent out your ship. So there's going to be some mechanics that are in place. There's also been talks about having an organization hangar where you can just all store your ships in there and then somebody can use it. Now, what does that end up looking like? Are there permissions that are built into the new Org 2.0 rework? Maybe. Or is it really just, you have to actually approve somebody's request, and maybe if you're offline, that ends up being an email that gets sent to you that you can, access on the internet or something like that. You're going to have the ability to kind of lend out your ships. The more detailed questions are, how do you get paid for lending those out, if that ends up being a game mechanic that's in place. But I'm going to be able to let a friend or an NPC, for example, fly one of my ships and run as escort. Or, if somebody wants to do mining and try out my Prospector, I could let them use it. Now, we don't know how that's actually going to work, but it is going to be in-game. Cooley167 says, hey STL, since we're getting planetary landings, do you think we'll be able to land on a planet or an asteroid and sleep in a bed, log off safely? I'm curious because this would be a good way to hide out in lawless space. Yeah, I don't think the space matters. I don't think it matters if you're on planet. I don't think it matters if you're on an asteroid. You're going to have the ability to log out on most ships. The real exceptions there are going to be things like the Bangle, persistent type of vehicles that are going to be in game. You're not going to be able to log out and, your ship isn't going to disappear. You're not going to be able to hide out. The other part of that is probably going to be related to combat. You're not going to necessarily be able to be in a firefight probably and run back to your bed, kind of put your character to sleep and then you just vanish. That's kind of called that combat logging type of deal. And I don't think that's going to be in place. But yeah, if you just want to land somewhere, hop in your sack, and then all of a sudden you're going to just disappear, I think that's something that's going to be in place. Now, the implications that has to, to somebody who's trying to track you down, I'm not really sure yet. I don't think, CIG even knows at this point. But basically, if you disappear, people aren't going to be able to find you. And yeah, I mean, that would be a fine approach. Sparkles says, would you ask for a refund if the game doesn't come out in 2017? I will. No. I've kind of built a little a little empire here, kind of covering this game. And the reason I've done it and the reason I make content on the game is because I'm passionate about it. I have faith in what Roberts and his team are doing. I think it's going to be an awesome experience for all of us, and I think we're just kind of on the early side of adopters into a new generation of games. So yeah, I'm fully aware that it's going to take time to come out. Now, if it doesn't come out in 2017, would I be disappointed? Absolutely. But, there's a couple things that you need to really take into account and consideration here. And one of those is just kind of asking yourself a question, and that would be, what do you consider to be coming out? Because right now we do have a playable game. Now, it's not a full-fledged game at all, but we know 3.0 is right around the corner. And we've seen the demonstrations from Gamescom and what's actually going to be coming in that. And it's a lot more game, and it's going to be a lot more for us to do. And it's going to just continue to develop. Now, if CIG didn't have this open development cycle to where we didn't get the monthly reports, we didn't get communication from the developers, we didn't have a playable alpha right now, then yeah, I would probably say, wow, we are way past our deadline, we're not getting the communication we need. Yeah, I'm going to probably jump ship. But that's not where we're at today. Not to mention manage and kind of build that in with the faith that I've got and the passion for the project that I have? And no, I wouldn't, based on where we're at today. Flawed says, how soon do you think we'll have to wait until it gets optimized? The biggest thing for optimization today is specifically surrounding the netcode rework. And that's going to be something that's going to be happening in 3.0. There's a couple big things that are coming. There's the 64-bit system, there's the netcode rework, and then there's also just ongoing things like reworking of ships. And that's part of the ship pipeline, is to make them look better but use less polygons, so you're taking less resources on the game engine. So those are things that are all being worked on today, and I think those are going to be all things that make big strides towards the overall performance. But that network rework is the single biggest thing, and it is on the roadmap right now. So I would say probably beginning of the year is kind of when that's slated to come, but we'll just have to see how the project progresses through there. But it is coming, and it's something I'm really personally looking forward to. I will say, though, that the game has been running better for me, with 2.5 being out now, than any of the other previous builds, at least in recent times. I know there's a lot of people that have different experiences, and they kind of complain about it. For me, I'm running pretty smoothly, which has been good for me. So, but yeah, I mean, once... The other part of that is once we get the new network code, or the net code, then all of a sudden we're able to get more players. And that's the thing I'm really looking forward to, is a massively multiplayer online experience. We don't have massive numbers of players right now. And when we get those into the game, we're going to start feeling the experience of what this should be like, and that's why I'm so excited for it. Rainblade says, what would you put in your Endeavor Hope class hangar bay? I think the natural synergy there is a Cutlass Red. The Hope is a hospital, the Cutlass is an ambulance, and you need the ambulance to bring people to your hospital. I would say that, other ships that are a potential option there could maybe be, like an Argo or two. Argos, because the Endeavor's a really big ship. I don't think it's going to be able to land on planets. So because of that, being able to have the courier between the surface and the, into space is going to be helpful. So maybe the personnel and a cargo variety. Maybe just a general, like an Avenger could probably be a good option, because then all of a sudden you've got, a combat ship that you can deploy. And I'd probably go with the Titan variety, because then you can use it for cargo on and offloading. You could probably stick a chair or drop seat module or something in there. You're only going to be limited based on size. And with a Cutlass fitting in there, you might be able to fit something like the Vanguard Hoplite back there too, and that might be kind of an interesting option. It's one of the few ships that actually is going to have a hangar bay that can actually fit a decent sized ship. So you've got a lot of options, but I think it really just depends on what sort of gameplay you're planning to do. But with it being a dedicated hospital ship, I think it makes a lot of sense to end up having the Cutlass Red. Shut Your Face says, would the Reliant be a good starter jack-of-all-trades ship? Like straight off, just trade your starter ship and buy the Reliant. Well, if you have the funds to do it, I would say so. The Reliant actually falls into like a pseudo-starter category. It can do, some exploration. It can do some hauling. It can do some, trade. There's a few roles that it does, that it should do pretty well in. I don't think it's going to be much of a combat ship. It's not today. It doesn't fly all that well. It doesn't have a real good weapons loadout. I actually have some questions about what the Reliant Tana is going to be like once we actually get that one, just based on how the core flies today. But I think it's a good option. Today, it's kind of my go-to recommendation, but I would say the Avenger is in the kind of same price range, and I think it does a little bit better in what we have today with similar amounts of cargo. And it's got the modularity to where you could drop out, instead of doing cargo, you could put in the holding cells, or you could put in the EMP. There's different things that you could do with the Avenger that I think gives it a little bit, more value in my mind. Remember Me says, hey bro, I want to ask, I hope you can answer this for me. Going to buy a Prospector and a Freelancer DUR for a combo. I was thinking about Prospector 24 hours mining while the DUR can find ore and help find cargo for me, or haul cargo, I guess. I was wondering what you think about it. I hope you can answer it. I think the combination of the two ships is fine. I don't know if the saddlebags are going to fit in the Freelancer. I think they will, just based on the size of the container and the door in the back. That being said, you're going to have to remember that you're going to need to have like an NPC flying one of those ships for you, or a friend flying one of those ships for you. You're not going to be able to just set your Prospector to automatically mine. Somebody actually needs to sit in the pilot seat to do that. But theoretically, yeah, it's a fine combo. Now, 24 hours a day, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of rest mechanics in there. Even an NPC is not going to be able to work 24 hours straight. There's probably going to be some restrictions. Not to mention you're going to have to haul off that cargo at some point. And, there's going to be stopping points, I think. So, yeah, the combination is good. I would say that a whole A working with there is probably the more natural connection, just because we've got confirmation that the whole A, or actually just the whole series, is actually capable of hauling the saddlebags with ore from the Prospector. So yeah, I think it's something that can happen. I just don't necessarily think that. I guess it depends on what your expectations are specifically, because it sounds like you're expecting just a 24-hour-a-day money-making operation, and that's not really going to be feasible. And the last question today is from Ice H2O. Hey Youngblood, loving the videos. Do you think that ships will ever get magnetic landing gear so we can attach to the sides of stations? Large ships like the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. And any thoughts on magnetic boots? I don't think we're going to get magnetic skids on your ship. And even if we do, it's going to be specific to probably working with the landing pads. We've gotten some comments from the developers saying that the only way you're going to be able to kind of connect to other ships is either landing in the landing bay or actually through the docking collars. So, with that in mind, we can kind of extrapolate and say, well, then that's another way you could connect to a ship, so it's probably not going to be feasible. We also know that you can't travel with ships that are connected to docking collars, so I don't think you're going to be able to, strap onto the side of a bangle and hope you're, undetected. That's probably not going to happen. But as far as mag boots go, we've heard in the lore that they're coming. We've heard developer updates that they're coming. So mag boots are going to be a thing. I don't know when they're going to actually be implemented. I wouldn't be surprised in 2.6 with Star Marine if they become a thing, especially since we know there's going to be some 0G combat involved with that. And that would be kind of a cool addition. So that's going to be it for this episode of the Inbox, trying to keep it a little bit shorter. If you guys have questions, please get them in. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Take care.